This is E&P Reports, a service of Editor and Publisher magazine. Since 1884, the authoritative voice of news publishing. And hi, once again, Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P Magazine. Today, I'm chatting with P.J. Browning, E&P's Publisher of the Year, and Executive Vice President of the Post Publishing Company, the parent company of the Charleston, South Carolina Post and Courier. And now that we're in the midst of downsizing and consolidation, the Post and Courier is making a pretty bold move, announcing this month that they're making a major investment in 2 additional South Carolina markets. We're going to chat with PJ first about her views on where the industry is today and where it's going, and then why they're making this commitment and how they're doing it. Along with PJ will be Chris Zoeller, Chief Marketing and Revenue Officer of the company as well. So join me as we talk South Carolina with PJ and Chris of the Post and Courier. All right, I've got PJ Browning, I've got Chris Zoeller, separate cities. PJ, I assume you're in Charleston right now. That's your office behind you?
Yes.
And Chris, you're in a hotel in, where are you right now, Chris?
I'm in Greenville, South Carolina, and excited to meet the community. So I'm right here.
We're going to talk about all that in a moment. This is very exciting stuff you guys are up to. PJ, obviously, I got to chat with you a little bit before we get to the meat of our story about the industry, but I have the most important question to ask right now. And may I? This is very important. Chris, I Googled you before coming here. Is it true in 2016 you made your husband dress up like a bunny and put him in a Christmas card picture? Is it? And I'm showing that to the audience now, if I may, because then I found a video on Vimeo of you interviewing your husband and how embarrassed he was from this. So the question of the morning is your marriage still stable through this? Are you still okay? Or
I don't know if it'll be stable after he listens and watches this, Mike, but yes, I made him dress up like a bunny. And I make my whole family go through a lot of Christmas holiday rituals so that we could have a family tradition. And that's one of them, our Christmas cards.
And PJ, you were part of this. You saw this video. You know what I'm going with this?
Yes, and I think we're trying to remember at the time. I think Paul worked here too.
Yes, that's right.
Chris? Yeah. So so they have this great Christmas card ritual, and everybody always looks forward to the creativity that comes out of the Zoeller family. But yes, it's very interesting, and I think Paul took a lot of ribbing for that, but it was great.
Well, for the benefit of our audience who's listening, Paul Zoeller is Chris Zoeller's husband. Chris, you are Chief Revenue Officer, correct, of the company. You're in our top left of the screen for those watching on YouTube. PJ is on the bottom of the screen. I'm in the top right. Okay, so let's chat. Before we get into the real reason that we're doing this interview, which is about this expansion that sounds very exciting, PJ, I got to talk to you. You obviously have been in the industry for many years. You described yourself as a newspaper brat. Is that right? In high school or college, you were taking classified ads. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I mean, immediately after I graduated from high school, I graduated in May and started taking classified ads in July.
So you have been in the industry. Obviously, you're only 39, so you've only been for a few years doing this. But since then, you've held some pretty prestigious positions. You've worked for some of the top companies in our industry. You have been president of associations. You're currently, congratulations, by the way, the chair of the SNPA Foundation. That's your current. And you are, I may say, and I'm going to show an image of this, E&P's Publisher of the Year. I had the honor of surprising you with an award in Chicago at the big convention. It was my honor. So, PJ, I got to ask you before we discuss why we're here. Can I just first ask about your opinions of where the industry is today? I mean, 2008 was bad enough, was it not? That was when the classified revenue stopped, didn't come back. Then we had our downturn in print. Now, and then Google and Facebook come along, start eating away at our local digital revenue. What's the new normal in your opinion? Where are we at today? And you must be bullish on the industry or we wouldn't be discussing this expansion. So if I could ask the great PJ Browning, where are we at and where are we headed, if I may?
So I think it's a great question. I am bullish on the industry, and then we had COVID-19, right?
Of course.
And so it's interesting, while we did projections to see what's coming up in the next 5 years and, traditional print advertising, especially from our majors, you see a lot going to Facebook and to Google, but that all was accelerated once COVID-19 hit, and took me back to 2008 when we had
Right.
the weekly calls, 30% revenue declines, and you just prayed that you were at 29%.
Exactly.
But it was so this has certainly advanced that, but I think also it definitely speaks to the necessity for all of our newspapers to be digitally ready. And we've been talking about digitally ready. I think that this was that push that said, okay, we got to be there. And I think those that are not there, we could see some fallout. Absolutely.
That's actually something that Matt Desrezio wrote about in our latest issue, that those papers that aren't adapting, well, that just goes back to any crisis, right? Those that adapt during crisis periods do better, those that don't. So let me ask you some quick questions about adaption. Will we be outsourcing more as an industry? Do you think that is our future? Less staff full-time, more outsourced, more? Do you see that as a trend through this?
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I honestly think that we may become a smaller organizations. What I'm starting to see is, I say it's the 2-3 people pop-up newspapers that are really niche driven. And you're seeing that whether it's within communities that want to cover education, or they just have a cause that they're behind. So it's interesting to me. I almost think that you're going to see the resurgence of a really local news outlet, and that local news outlet could become smaller. I think that where we've struggled is with the outsourcing, and we've stopped identifying with the communities that we serve.
You didn't mention the word print in there. You simply said no local news outlet. Are you comfortable with a digital only local news outlet?
I am. And I think you're going to see that, obviously that is cropping up, more digital news only outlets. I think the majority of people want local news, and the platform, it can be different platforms. Certainly as we get into discussion about how we're moving forward, we'll really concentrate on print within our core market. We don't want to leave print yet because we don't think print is dead. But, we're not in the mode of expanding print statewide. There's not a business model for it today.
What about, I live in Tampa Bay Times, owned by Pointer, cut back to twice a week in their print frequency. You're on the record now. Is the Post and Courier looking to cut back on frequency? Yes, no?
No.
There you go. You heard it first right here.
No, we've believed, and I do understand why some of the newspapers have gone that way, but, I would say our company has believed in two very important things, and that is content. Content is king, and we believe that content is what drives the readership. But we also know that news happens every day, and we really are not in favor of that continuity that a 7-day print product brings. So right now, we're going to concentrate on our core market with print and keep that continuity.
Talk to me about subscription revenue, your opinion, where everybody now is saying, thanks to COVID-19, I can get people to pay for content. Your philosophy on that? Where do you feel about, do we put up metered or paywalls or what?
Yes, we believe in paywall, and we also believe in getting paid for our content. Again, I've been doing this for 36 years, and when you go back and you look at where the price point began for digital, I wish somebody had it documented, because at some point it was $9.99, and you called around and everybody was at $9.99, but nobody really knew where that came from. But it was never the right price point for us as an industry. We needed to do our homework, and we needed to figure out, how do you sustain your journalism and your newsroom through your paid model? Take out legacy costs. What do you really need to survive? And Mitch, our executive editor, Mitch Pugh, and me, we traveled to Seattle, we traveled to Boston, and they were very gracious with their time. But it was interesting to look at their models and how, people were saying you need to be bold with pricing, that people will pay for good content. So out of the gate, we've really done much better with pricing, and we're going to be bold with pricing.
Bold meaning you're going to push the envelope, correct?
Yes.
And you don't worry about pure play competition as long as your content rocks. Okay. Final question before I get into the whole meat of this. All right. You've been a staunch supporter of getting our frenemies, Google and Facebook, to pay us for our content. Meanwhile, Google and Facebook are throwing millions of dollars at the industry right now. Google's now doing a local advertising campaign, although it's only 15 million, which was that's like a rounding error for Google, right? I mean, if you think about it, where is your thought today on that issue? Are you still a staunch supporter in getting Congress and getting legislation that Facebook and Google should be paying us for content?
Yeah, and I will tell you, I feel like we're frenemies. I really like the people, Facebook and Google, and I think there's certainly really good things. I mean, the traffic that they drive, right? Their argument, they drive traffic to us. While that's good, it also enables them to take all of this advertising revenue, and so we don't have a business model that we actually can survive with. So I hope that frenemy is one that we can really come together. And I appreciate where they're trying to support the industry. It just feels like that negotiations, right, need to come together, and we need to have some better conversations around the needs of both organizations. And I'm still a staunch believer that we're going to get there, but I do believe that we need them to pay for the traffic that we're getting.
Well, great comforting words from PJ Browning. Now, the reason for our conversation is you guys flipped me out. Chris, I got the press release. You're expanding in a time where everybody's downsizing. I assume, what did you do? Just wake up one morning without doing any research and say, hey, here's a great idea. Let's blow lots of cash right now. You guys obviously took a hard look at this. Before I go to PJ on this, Chris, you're in charge of money, right? I mean, that's your job. You look good. And by the way, Chris, I've got shoes older than you. You're not PJ and I. Well, PJ, you're so much younger than me. But you're a new up and comer. I mean, you're amazingly successful now. You've been with this company for years, right? Almost 15?
15 years. A couple of weeks ago would have been my 15th anniversary, yes.
And now you're in charge of all ad revenue, correct? Or for everything. I mean, this is your mission is to make sure that the company is making money, correct? That's what you do.
I mean, that's primarily it. Yes, absolutely. In addition, I work on our events and our marketing, but yes, absolutely. That's my mission and I believe in our mission so much just because I believe in the work that we do.
And then you're also in charge of digital services, everything else that you guys provide to your local businesses. You're now about to expand into 2 other markets. Now I'm going to put up a map for those that are watching on YouTube of what South Carolina looks like. Most of us know the state. I mean, I'm down in Florida, but some may not. Your hub is Charleston. That's the largest city of the state. You already have operations, correct me if I'm wrong, in Aiken, correct? That's your newspaper. You've got an alternative weekly in the state capital. I'm correct there. And that's a separate office. Is that correct, PJ? That's operated as a separate entity. And now you're about to go into Myrtle Beach, and the other market is you're going into Greenville, where you are right now, correct, Chris? Is there opportunity there? I mean, come on, Chris, there's only so much money going around. Are you about to really take these on and start to support these efforts in these markets? What's your plan, Chris, to start making ad revenue in these markets that already have, no offense, competing newspapers, right? You got McClatchy and Gannett you're up against in there. How's this going to work?
Well, it's a big question, and I'll say that we didn't wake up and say we're going to go expand into Myrtle Beach and Greenville right away. We've been doing our research for the last couple years. When you say, PJ, we've visited both markets. We've talked to community leaders. We've talked to readers, and we've identified that there's a real opportunity and a real niche here to deliver content that we believe that will help the community. And I think what's really amazing about what we're really trying to do is because content is king and the way we've been growing over the years, whereas yes, I'm in the advertising side, we're doing this with the sole intention of growing it based off of our digital subscriptions. And then with that, we'll be able to grow audience and be able to have opportunities for businesses to be in front of those audiences. So
now, Greenville's going to be a digital only market. Is that correct? No print product planned yet, or ever for that matter. What kind of resources are you throwing against that? May I ask, PJ, how many people are you throwing into the market? Are you opening an office there? I mean, I know you're up there now, Chris. Are you doing the advanced work as we speak? What's going on?
No, we absolutely are. We will be located in downtown Greenville, and it's a really cool shared office building, Endeavor, and it's really state of the art. So we're excited about being in downtown Greenville. From a resource standpoint, right now we will have we've got kind of what we're calling our digital audience lead, and I'm calling it like the publisher mega editor that will really have a deep understanding of digital. Ryan Gilchrist is taking on that position. He's really excellent. I'm so happy to have him on the team. And then we will have a local editor, and we will have 3 full-time reporters as well. All of them will do reporting and editing. I mean, they're all really engaged. And then we'll have freelance reporters and photographers, but we may need to add some additional resources. And I'll just say we put together a contingency fund, knowing that we may need additional resources. We think that combined with our state reporting team, we have 11 reporters in Columbia, and that while we purchased the alternative in Columbia, Free Times, in the last year and a half, we co-branded that, and that's now the Post and Courier Free Times. So you see that as more of a newspaper with entertainment that you would traditionally see from an alt. So we've got a really pretty deep state house reporting team. And then we've got 5 individuals that are on a projects team. And the projects team right now is based out of Post and Courier, but they do statewide projects. So like Minimally Adequate on education in South Carolina, Till Death Do Us Part around domestic violence. Those are some of the bigger statewide issues. So local, state will be covered, and then projects.
So I assume that was going to be 5 questions from now, but you just let it go. You're going to use the PNC logo and the PNC brand as you attack both these markets, correct? Yes. You are expanding PNC. If I may be so bold, this is the Walter Husband play of Arkansas. Have you chatted with Walter? May I ask?
Oh, talk to Walter. Yes, love Walter, and we have some great conversations. But yeah, the Post and Courier for Greenville will be the Post and Courier Greenville, and then the one for Myrtle Beach, which we can talk about later, will be the Post and Courier Myrtle Beach. And we'll also include Georgetown Times within that logo, because we happen to own the oldest weekly newspaper in the state of South Carolina. And just out of respect for that title, it will also be on the masthead.
Georgetown Times in Georgetown, correct?
Yeah.
I thought you're the second oldest paper, the Post and Courier. So you have the first and the second, correct?
Right. We're daily, they're weekly.
I had
so
that.
We're old, Mike. We're really old.
Well, so be it. Which brings up the topic then that did you ever even think of purchasing the Gannett property and trying to grab their masthead in any of your 2 years of thoughts of this expansion, or it was going to be PNC all the way and the heck with the local paper that's up there right now?
My response to that would be when we bought the Free Times, and again, this has kind of been an evolving thing as far as statewide coverage. So the Free Times is a really good test for us because, when you take the Post and Courier and you try to combine it, or you buy a brand and you say, okay, well, how's that brand going to work? I think that it was a good lesson for us in that it was different than the Post and Courier brand. And so I think because a brand usually carries with it either good or bad, we decided that we wanted to take our brand that we knew was strong, and we wanted to move it forward.
I am not trying to get you to diss another media company, although I'd love to see it. I mean, I'm probing to find out, are you taking advantage of the consolidation of Gannett? I have to ask the question, or my editor is going to slap me silly, say I'm softballing you. There's consolidation going on. They don't even have a publisher in that market right now. I did some intel, correct? Chris, you're up there shaking hands and you're making friends and building your relationships up there. Do you see a news void, even though there's an existing paper and you're planning to provide it? Is that what's going on here? Did I ask the question? Do you understand the question?
We definitely see that there is a niche that we can serve, and what we know and what we hear, and just from the visit that I've had for the last couple days, is that we have the community that is very excited that we're able to provide local quality reporting.
Okay.
And that's the advantage that we can provide. And as being part of the Post and Courier and Evening Post industries, one of the things, I'm so proud of is that the company believes in that content is king and investing in those resources. So we see that there is a niche to fill, and we aim to do that with our local reporting.
All right. So that's the Gannett market. Now Myrtle Beach, because I was going to ask about that. PJ, you got some history there, right? You ran that newspaper for how many years? You lived in Myrtle Beach.
7 years.
All right. So, I mean, you are known in that market. You were a fixture in that market, and you're going to do a print product in that market. I assume it's a weekly or biweekly. What's the plan on the print frequency?
It'll be a weekly product. And, today the Post and Courier, we do have single copy in that market. So we've had a little bit of a brand, I guess, already identity in that market. And then, of course, the weekly that we have, we currently own the Georgetown Times, and then we started South Strand News, which I don't know how many people are familiar with, but South Strand News is a weekly product as well. And so what you're going to see is we're going to take the Post and Courier brand and combine it with the other two to still have that weekly good, rich local news. But there will be one Wednesday print product that will be branded. I've actually got a picture of it I could show you. It's the Post and Courier, Myrtle Beach, and the Georgetown Times.
Excellent.
So this is just our prototype. But we'll go really strong with the Post and Courier brand.
And Chris, you mentioned that most of the revenue you're hoping for is subscription based. Are you not parachuting in sales teams into these markets to go over local business? Is that not your plan?
No, we actually have salespeople already in place in both markets, and preparing them to understand what we're trying to do and what our model is. And we're already starting to meet with businesses out there. Again, we know we want to grow our digital audience with paid digital subscribers. When we have that audience and we can build that audience, then we know businesses want to be in front of those audiences. So we'll definitely be offering opportunities for our businesses to market to the audience. So absolutely.
And you do offer all digital services, Chris? Everything? You have an entire digital agency?
We do. We have not only our digital offerings through our owned and operated products, but with our digital agency, which is powered by King Columbus, which is an in-house digital full service agency we started a couple of years ago. We'll be able to offer the local businesses and other partners the opportunity to extend their marketing through these services as well. So through your programmatic, your SEM, your website builds, your photography, videography, content marketing services. So it gives all of these businesses more options.
Am I allowed to ask a question? How are you doing with digital revenue as opposed to legacy revenue? Are you ahead of the industry average, which people debate is around 25% right now, between 25 and 30? Are you looking for more digital growth? Are you giving away the print that some competitors are doing? How are you playing the print digital game when you're looking for that revenue, Chris?
Are you talking about the advertising or?
Yes, advertising side, yes.
Well, we have really done a great job about not giving away anything, because there is value in that print and there is value in that digital. And I think probably the industry in the past used to give away a lot of their owned and operated digital quite a bit, not understanding that the value that they were giving away was so high. We definitely will see. Well, here in Greenville, it will be all digital, but we are seeing that shift in Charleston as well. Although Charleston is still a very strong print market.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mike, maybe to add to that, I would tell you probably just the opposite. We tend to lag a little bit behind the industry average when it comes to digital. But, having worked for Gannett for 18 years and then was with McClatchy, and how we measure it is different. We really do still have strong print revenue. And so we don't want to jeopardize that. And so we focus on owned and operated, and we're less into the programmatic game. And we're less into the need to drive that percentage number up just to say we've driven that number up.
Precisely.
So we really want to continue to keep that print number for as long as we can.
Yeah, that's the thing, because when you have a hedge fund demanding digital growth, you can do a little Hollywood accounting in the back end, if you know what I mean. And,
Yeah, I mean, you have to drive things to digital at that point, right? And we're
Yeah.
not under the same, under those same guidelines. Ours is really with Chris, she looks at overall revenue.
Well, let's talk about how blessed you are for the family you work for, right? I mean, would you give your job up tomorrow if you were one of the big companies was going to try to take you away?
You better not.
No, we, the ability to be creative, and, we're really blessed to work here, because it's tough out there. And I have so many friends in the industry, right? And, they're all fighting the good fight, but our ownership allows us the opportunity to be creative. And like you said, here we are in the middle of COVID. Nobody's doing well. Ad revenue is not doing well. And, we're able to go to the board in April and say, we've been talking about this expansion thing for a while. And, now's the time that if we ever needed to grow an audience, a digital audience revenue, we need to invest now and go in and get after those markets, because who knows if advertising trend stays where it is, then it's going to be too late to start that in a year or two.
No, this is
and they listened.
Don't you agree, Chris? I mean, during this crisis, it's a good time to attack. I mean, you have the resources. You've got the ability to go into these markets now while everybody's running for cover and make a very strong showing. I mean, I'm assuming that's your plan.
Yeah, and I think we've been very fortunate with a company that, we talk about innovation. I think in times like this, it forces us all to think differently and look differently, and things. What I really admire about the company is that we've always worked towards how we're going to build our audience on the news side and readership side. From our company, I'll credit PJ on this quite a bit. For the last few years, we have been working aggressively to become more digital ready, not only on our side, but we're working on that with our audience as well. And I think a lot of businesses are facing that same challenge, right? When businesses were closed, a lot of businesses were forced to think, well, am I digitally ready?
Exactly.
And they weren't. Some of them aren't prepared and some of them are prepared. So when we are in a situation like this, whether it's a pandemic or a hurricane or a recession or whatever it is, we can move fast and we can act fast. But all of that is allowed because we work for a company that gives us that freedom to experiment and to set us up. So
it's great. All right. So I got to ask about you're pretty much covering the state now. There's no if, and, or but, except for Spartanburg, Hendersonville, right? I mean, I'm familiar with the state because you might remember in my other company, the Blinder Group, I worked for the New York Times Regional News Group. So I was in a lot of those markets throughout the state for many years, and I'm familiar with those two towns. You don't have a presence there yet, but is it the last place to conquer if you're going to become the true statewide? Am I allowed to ask this, or am I?
Yeah, I'm laughing because we've had a request for certainly to come into Spartanburg.
Really?
So, and here's I'll give you the same response, is that we're very anxious to go into Greenville and to Myrtle Beach. And, we want to build that out. And then we want to reserve the right to see how that goes and see where else, certainly for us, if there's what we think is a news desert being created, or the makings of a news desert where newspapers it's just void and there's not good local content. And if it's in the state of South Carolina, then we feel like we have the opportunity to provide that content.
This is what I think is interesting, that you are in the right place at the right time, in my opinion, because South Carolina, in a way, is like John Hussman's Arkansas, is it not? I mean, the state is smaller, and state news is very important throughout the entire state. Am I right? It's not that far.
Right.
Like here in Florida, the difference between Jacksonville and Miami and Tampa, and even, we even have two time zone here. State news is not that, we don't get a lot of interest in that here. Tampa Bay is Tampa Bay. But as you said, you've got 3 reporters already doing the state beat. That is important to all those markets, correct? Is that South Carolina pretty much in a nutshell?
Oh, yeah. And, like where Chris is, and I'm in Charleston, she's in Greenville, we're 3.5 hours away from each other.
Right.
Hilton Head's going to be 2.5 hours, and, Myrtle Beach is 2 hours from me. I can be to Charlotte in 3 hours. Atlanta in 5 hours. So, to get to the state line, you're right. It is very similar to what Walter deals with in Arkansas.
Now, obviously, the Hilton Head investment, that is a huge hospitality market, correct? A lot of the, I guess for Chris, you're going into a market where, and I'm assuming the Wednesday drop is for a reason as well. It's like an alternative weekly play. You can be putting in all the happenings for the weekend in your Wednesday edition as well. Are you comfortable going in during COVID? When all those businesses are, what is it like down there in Myrtle Beach right now? Is it shut down? Is it opened up? Is it 50-50? What's the market like during COVID?
I haven't gotten to see Myrtle Beach so much myself. And certainly the hospitality business is taking a huge hit. But we also see within the state that there is a lot of efforts to encourage drive-in markets so that local tourism occurs. That's going to be a tough one. I think we'd all love to be able to predict how all these businesses are going to do. And then, a week seems like an eternity at this point, but, at this point, we're focused on, what we can do to serve a community from a content side. Because there's certainly, as we know, just from the last couple of months, our audience has grown significantly because people are looking to the Post and Courier for, information, especially around what's going on right now. So, as we hear from those, hear from the audience, we hear from the businesses as well. And I'll say in Charleston, we're reopening. We're slowly starting to reopen, and we've got our full sales force, having those conversations with those businesses, and we're starting to see things come back for us on the advertising side, because at this time, a lot of businesses, their marketing needs have changed because they're having to reintroduce themselves or educate people about what they're doing during this process.
Excellent. And
Mike, I might add about Myrtle Beach. So that was always an interesting market to be in. It was one of the largest single copy markets because because it was so tourism based. Mm-hmm. So absolutely, one of our big plays with that Wednesday newspaper is single copy. The home delivery will be mailed. What our circulation team will work on in that market is single copy. We do believe that's a good play. So it's just the way that market's made up. And the other thing that's really interesting about that market is, you look at where the revenue sources are from an advertising standpoint. It's definitely that tourism base, but that didn't necessarily ever play strongly into the print product. But subscriber revenue, single copy revenue, things to do and read about, that was an important place. So it is really an audience play in that market from them buying the newspaper. And then we'll layer in digital services for those businesses as well.
Right. And I assume we can look for some statewide verticals. That was my last question down the road. You guys going to try to combine jobs, homes, cars, and stuff on any statewide level? Or is that not part of your final play, maybe?
It's not in the plan right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I've had a couple of people ask me about the revenue play for advertising. It's not in our plan right now, but I will tell you it's on the peripheral, and you definitely feel like that is an opportunity for us. I think we're a small team, so we're concentrating on this audience play. But I do think that certainly automotive, we've tapped into that a little bit, employment a little bit, and we do see that there's opportunity for us to grow in that area, especially from the digital services side.
Excellent. And I forgot to ask about offices in Myrtle Beach. You've already contracted with space there? Are you already up and running? What are you doing?
So Georgetown office, we have a beautiful office on the Intercoastal, really.
Really?
It's the prettiest office in the entire company. That is, 30 miles, 25 miles maybe. So we'll utilize that office as we do now, but the reporters themselves will work remote.
Excellent. So if we want to watch your progress and anyone wants to watch how this is all developing, will we find it out of the postandcourier.com? Do we have to is everything going to be under one big, huge umbrella? How do we keep an eye on everything you're up to?
Chris?
Well, we have thank you for asking, Mike. So if you want to follow along with any of our progress, either in Greenville or Myrtle Beach, you can visit postandcourier.com/Greenville
Okay.
or postandcourier.com/Myrtle Beach. We invite everyone to sign up for our free newsletters so that everyone can keep up with the progress of our launch. And then collectively as a whole, we have almost 20 different newsletters across the brand that, you can follow along with our statewide politics, our statewide military news, business content. We'll be building out more of those opportunities for newsletters in the other expansion markets as well. But for now, sign up for those newsletters on postandcourier.com/Greenville and postandcourier.com/Myrtle Beach.
Chris, what's your email address if anyone wants to ask some more questions? How do we get a hold of you?
You can reach me. Email is czoeller, ZOELLER @postandcourier.com.
PJ, how do we talk to you, PJ, if someone wants to ask you a question?
Same thing. I tell everybody, don't put the J in there because it won't come to me. It's just P Browning. I guess it goes back to technology and too many characters, but P Browning @postandcourier.com.
It's an honor to chat with both of you. Congratulations again, PJ. You're a great Publisher of the Year for E&P. And Chris, I just want to congratulations on your ascension. I mean, you have such an exciting place right now for this industry. We're going to keep an eye on you. And do me a favor, don't embarrass your husband this Christmas, please. On behalf of the men in this world.
Every year we embarrass the whole family, so we're really quite proud of that. We'll put you on the mailing list, Mike. But thank you so much. And again, all of this is because we work for a great company that supports their employees. So thank you. And PJ is a great leader to be with. So
great. We have a good team. Very good team. Proud of them.
PJ, Chris, you guys stay well. We'll check in with you later on. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mike.